So, um, my best friend lives in New York, and I would like to think of this as more of a challenge, but different than the type of challenges that we've seen as of lately. So, when we talk about the time we're in, something really major is mental health. So, I have a friend, my best friend, and he introduced me to um, his best friend, and she did a challenge. Well, not necessarily a challenge. I'm calling it a challenge because she shared something on Facebook that really touched me. That she kind of went through her life and her experiences, and how racism has impacted her throughout her life. And, it's really interesting because anytime that we want to discuss it in this country, it's shot down. Like we can't. It's like we can't have that conversation. And then a lot of times when this happens to us, we feel some kind of way. So we may be embarrassed about sharing it because we don't know how people are going to accept it. So, you know, I wrote down some of the experiences that I've had that were impactful throughout the years, and of course, I can't fit everything on there, but I just want to share it because I just want to get off my chest. A lot of people haven't even heard of this, and I'm pretty sure like you have a story as a minority. I'm pretty sure not even as a minority, I'm pretty sure you have a story about things that have happened to you. But I think what's on the table right now is how racism impacts people of color in a different way. And so I want to share this just because I know how impactful hearing her story was. And so I hope this will be impactful to the other people that hear it so that you know that you're not alone. And I think that that's important. I think that's the pathway to healing. But anyways, I would call it like a when I was challenge. So when I was in Montessori in Detroit, every morning I rode to school with my white carpool. They called me a nigga. And to this day, I don't even think my parents knew. I was one of the lucky ones because I went to private school for 2 years. My parents were successful middle class parents, yet we never could seem to live in a better place. When I was walking on the wall at the Detroit Zoo, some white kid came up to me and called me a nigga for no reason. My parents divorced when I was 8 years old, and we moved out of Detroit into a housing project because we couldn't afford to stay in our house. My mother thought a housing project was a better environment for us because it was not in the city of Detroit. The new school I went to was mostly white instead of black. If you went to my new school and you were black, you lived in the same housing project as I did, unless you were adopted. The teachers and students made fun and belittled us as minorities when reading and speaking because our education level was never the same. We stayed after school on the bus almost every day because all the black kids had to fit on the same bus, which always caused fights, so it was quicker to walk home. I was jumped into the Crips because where I lived, even though my cousins were Bloods. When I was in the Air Force serving my country in South Dakota, retired Navy personnel that I reported to would ask me every day why they let Puerto Ricans into the military even though they knew that they were Hawaiians, just to get under my skin. In the military as a person of color, I was not allowed to talk to the only other black person in fear that we would support each other. I lost respect for the white people on my base because even after using my chain of command, nothing was ever done on my behalf. I was assaulted on multiple occasions on that base and never could do or say anything because no one listens to me then and probably still won't to this day. When I say that, I'm thinking about all the other people that I know were coming through that base. I had 3 friends get locked up on that base because they went through the same thing I did. And I'm definitely one of the lucky ones. I'm sorry. I was literally written up every month while on that base. I made sure that I got a white military lawyer because I didn't think a minority would be taken seriously. My command called my lawyer in Washington State and threatened her and her supervisor. After they threatened my lawyer, she told me that there was nothing else she could do for me and to get off that base and that I would be on my own. I was always racially profiled for having a shaving waiver and asked regularly by my command to shave in front of them because they didn't believe I was within standard. And when I did, they said there was something wrong with the clippers. There was an airman who was new to my shop and told me that most of the shop called me a nigger when I was not around, and that he would be a witness and we should go to equal opportunity and report it. And I told him no, because I did not want them to come after him because he had a baby on the way and a family to support. I was more concerned about him and his family than my own welfare. When I left the Air Force, I could not find a job for over a year, even though I joined at 19, and I was a supervisor working for Seattle Public Health and making $22 an hour. I was carjacked and should have died that day, and I still have nightmares. I was shot on purpose 10 years ago, and I still have nightmares. When I lived in Atlanta, I worked for a company that made all the minorities supervise people and gave us no power. They blamed us for everything that went wrong and paid us less. They changed my schedule, location regularly, even though I was also serving my country at that same time. At office parties, we stopped going because directors and managers only were interested in interacting with the whites, and people of color often found ourselves outcasts, so most of us stopped going to company events. When Trump came into office, I was on base in Florida. They turned on the inauguration, even though it was a violation to politicize in the office. And in any way, every minority that I spoke to felt uncomfortable working there. And in that moment, it reminded me of the days of the Air Force. And so my friend Brandy Drinker shared her experience. And so here's a small part of mine as a minority. I know white people feel prejudice, but not in the way that we experience it in this country. We are not alone, y'all. So, I wanted to share that because I haven't shared a lot of that. And no one really knows what impact that things have on you in life. And when you bottle shit up for years and years and years, then you explode. And so, when this white people in this country say that we don't want to see y'all kneeling, we don't want to see you marching and coming together, every time somebody says, well, we don't care about your pain, there's a breaking point that everyone gets to, and that's why we're here. And so I say, for minorities, you cannot lose track, you cannot lose sight of what other people may be carrying or what they're dealing with. And so you gotta try to be more understanding of other people. Stop judging people. Give people an opportunity to get shit off of their chest, because you never know. But I encourage people Not necessarily that you have to just unload your life. It's up to you how you want to deal with it. But as you can see, if you bottle shit up, there's a lot of things we can't express, then you see what comes out of it. So, get it off your chest. Anyways, that's my experience.